on deep dive into how will you adopt and adapt strategies. And post that, third workshop will deep dive into opportunities in the current crisis. And fourth workshop will deep dive into how will your organization change to be successful. Just a minute, I think this is not the right one. Hang on. Give me a minute. Yeah, sorry, quickly again. First workshop happened last week. This is the link. You can go here and actually go through this if you did not attend. Today's workshop actually deep dives into how should entrepreneurs adapt and adopt strategies and tactics that will help them survive and thrive, how to pivot to new opportunities. Third workshop will deep dive into how should your organization change to be successful. And the fourth workshop will deep dive into what opportunities the current crisis is throwing up and how best to adapt your strategies and adopt those opportunities. If you find value today, please share and invite your friends and connect to join these workshops. Okay, moving on. What will we cover in this workshop? What should be the right strategy given the stage of your startup and the industry segment you or your customer operates in? What tactics should you adopt given the challenges on the ground? How should you align or pivot to new opportunities? How do you leverage new opportunities with what your startup is doing today? I think this is the most critical thing you have to remember. Those who are most adaptable to change survive. Charles Darwin's evolution theory stated this, and this has over eons proved to be absolutely on the dot. So it is not how strong you are, it is not how much you know, it's going to be how do you adapt, how fast do you adapt, that will ensure survival. So essential first steps every entrepreneur must take. Identify your core business sharply. This is very critical. Be prepared to let go, trade, exchange, partner, every other activity, especially if the industry segment you or your customer or your customer's customer operates in is going to suffer. So let's understand this a bit. What are we really talking about here? So let us say you look at your organization and you see that you're involved in, let's say, 3 or 4 activities. And the out of those 3 activities, only one is core and other 2 are something that you did as an add-on. Start looking at how can you give it up to somebody, and maybe a competitor, maybe a partner, maybe a vendor, maybe a customer. How can you give it up to somebody and partner with him? Similarly, look at what can you acquire from somebody which completely aligns with your core. He could be a competitor. It could be something he's doing which is not core to him. So start looking at it from very clinically, very, very quickly. Research and decide on how much runway will your org need before things change. Expect minimum 6 months, ideal 12 months. It is good. You are going to hear stuff like, oh, it will take 2 to 3 months to recover, or it's going to happen immediately. Most research, whether it is McKinsey, Deloitte, BCG, whosoever is actually researching this, World Bank, Asian Development Bank, are looking at minimum 6 months, ideal 12 months, could go more than 12 months also. So that recovery is not about whether people will get infected, that recovery is about what will it take for the entire local and global economy to start moving normally. It may not come back to the same level, but to start moving normally, cash and material starts flowing normally. So ensure financial viability for that runway. Figure this out today itself. Start preparing weekly cash flows. Extremely important. Focus on generating cash to last the runway rather than profits. Forget profits. Constantly keep thinking of cash. Look at your balance sheet, see what you can convert into cash. Look at whatever your activities are. If you're doing some core activities, some non-core activities, which you can sell to somebody and get cash, do it. Don't think twice. Because what is going to ensure that you survive 12 months is the cash you have in hand. Start relooking at money you have. Go back to your investors, go back to your debtors. Start looking at how do you create cash for your runway. Therefore, predicting cash flow for next 12 months becomes critical. Examine your fixed costs and identify what is essential for the core. And after doing that, create a hierarchy of costs and payouts. So what does it mean when we say hierarchy of costs? So some costs are absolute must. You cannot do anything about it. Some you should not postpone, but if it comes to a crunch, you can. Some costs will be there which actually can be postponed very easily. And some you should completely get rid of. Create that hierarchy, put a value to it, and start timelining them, aligning it with your cash flow. Go back to your vendors, negotiate with revised terms, with complete transparency about your normalization, complete transparency on your plan. How do you plan to normalize? How do you plan to get cash back into the system? When you can pay them? And this is true for your employees also. If you're delaying salaries, if you're cutting on salaries, with complete transparency, create a large long-term plan or a short-term plan and discuss it with your employees, with your vendors. Reach out to key customers for advance payments or for clearing any outstanding. Believe me, they will listen. If you are transparent about what you're doing, if you're transparent about how you're going to support them, they will pay because they have more money than you. And I'm not talking specifically of B2C or B2B. Situations will change depending on your business, but this is the general rule you should follow. Bend every rule without compromising on compliance and delay or postpone what you can, like rent, taxes, bank installments, interest payments, electricity bills, just delay. Work with your lending organization or your investor to restructure debt or investment or terms around it. Very important. You would have signed, those who got funded, you would have signed term sheets with milestones. And hopefully you would have a force majeure clause there. If you have a force majeure clause, go discuss the terms again. Don't delay it. And it is in the investor's interest to help you here. So go with that thinking. Create a long-term plan. Be transparent. Let the lending organization or the investor know how you plan to get back on track. And then push for better terms. Eliminate all costs that are not essential to your core activities. Okay, so it really doesn't depend what your business is. That is not what is going to determine the impact on your business. What's going to determine the impact on your business is this consumer. How is he going to behave? Now, you could be a B2B business and you would say, how does that affect me? So we'll see shortly how it affects you. So how is this, what has this pandemic done? How has it changed this consumer's behavior? So for example, let us say she's looking at a detergent from HUL, Hindustan Unilevers. Will she buy online or visit a mall? If she was buying in malls earlier, will she go online now? Chances are most likely. So that behavior has changed. What is the price point will she buy at? There has been cash tightening all around. People are budgeting everything. Will she take products at the same price? It's a question you will have to ask. How will she experience the product? How will she find out about the product since she's online now? Are your customer engagement systems online? Do you have an integrated end-to-end digital customer experience planned in your business? If you don't, then you have a challenge. Or your customer or your customer's customer, how will she search for the product? okay, her behavior now, how will it change Hindustan Unilever's life? So if the demand starts dropping, Hindustan Unilever will have to start looking at how is her behavior changing and what impact it has. So for example, supply chains have not been really working as well as they were working earlier. So availability is an issue. So will she switch brands? How will HUL make sure that she doesn't switch brands? Those questions are going to come up. So this is a B2C business, and you may be just a B2B business. You might be providing some services or technology to Hindustan Unilever, and you could ask, how does it affect me? But the point is, if Hindustan Unilever's top line or bottom line drops, it will start cutting costs and it will start looking at what service it gets from you. And it will revisit the relationship. And it's not only HUL, there's a logistics company that works with HUL. That's a B2B business. If the demand drops, their business will drop. There are suppliers who are supplying stuff to HUL, the bottle manufacturers, the label manufacturers, their business will suffer. And then there's a petrochemical company which is supplying plastic to these manufacturers. Their business will suffer because this consumer's behavior changed. Later on in this workshop, we will also look at how is consumer behavior going to change. Some very high level purchasing pattern research done by McKinsey, which I'll share with you. The thing is that her decision are going to affect this entire B2B chain. So you could be providing services to any one of these companies. Maybe you have an online app which solves supply chain issues. It's going to be affected. Any one of these customers may want to replace you with a cheaper option. Therefore, your awareness about the entire supply chain becomes very critical. You will have to understand what is happening in your customers' behavior. What is going to change? And unfortunately, if you are a service provider to a bottle manufacturer, you are so far away from this. So you will have to start questioning your customer about the supply chain, what's going to change, how's the behavior going to change, how does the consumer affect his business, so that you start getting of these companies are going to get affected. They in turn are consumers. The cash in their hand is going to go down. So the next question is, what will happen to cash? Will it move as smoothly as it was earlier? Or will the volume come down and the speed come down? It will move far more slowly. The volume is going to come down initially and the speed is also going to come down. Cash is not going to move as fast. And that is going to affect your cash flow. You will have to figure this out. So understanding and adapting to changing consumer behavior is critical. Does not matter where you are in this supply chain. Who are you working with? But you will have to understand the entire supply chain. So here's a McKinsey research done in April, which went into expected spend increase over the next 2 weeks per category. And they figured out a net intent score. And net intent score is people who said yes, they will spend more, minus people who said we will spend less. So groceries had a plus 32 uptick. In-home entertainment plus 34 uptick. Household supplies plus 19 uptick. Skincare is down minus 24. Apparel down minus 51. Consumer electronics minus 48. Quick service restaurants minus 69. Hotels, resorts minus 71. So where should you focus? If you want to do a quick pivot and do something new, here is where you will focus. In the short term. And we know supply chains are broken. So can you do something in the supply chain space? You will have to start thinking like this. Then there is furthermore research available on from different people. How will consumer behavior impact industry segments? So you need to know your customer's industry segment and start figuring this out. So orgs that will need minimum change in their business model will fare better. This is going to be critical because almost all companies are going to be changing their business model. The extent of change will depend on the industry segment they are in. If you're in digital SaaS, EdTech, operations efficiency platform, automation platforms, recover faster and you're in a good space. So all you need to do is figure out cash management. If you can manage cash for your runway, you should be doing good. FMCG going to be biggest opportunity because they're ramping up production. So if you want to get into building an essential product, so for example, let us say you want to get into organic rice, and I'm just throwing some product at you. Maybe this is the opportunity to launch it because there is shortage. And this shortage is going to remain only for 3 to 6 months. Travel and tour, worst hit. If your startup is in this space, please get out. Don't waste your time because this is going to be longest hit. It depends on what stage of startup you are in. We will towards about 3/4 of this webinar, we'll get into that part. So, but this is a risk area. So start rethinking. Hotels, travel agents, tour operations, destination travel, restaurants, family entertainment venues, air, land, sea transport, all is going to suffer. Power generation and distribution is going to decline by 25%. So is there an opportunity for home solar systems? I believe so. This is probably going to be an area where some disruption can happen. Auto sector will negatively impact the domestic auto industry in the near term for 3 to 6 months. I don't know how many of you are aware, most of the latest vehicles, the SUVs, import a lot of parts from China, and exports from China are going to go down. So there is going to be a supply side pressure on auto sector and a demand side pressure also. Shipping is down, and it will depend largely on how well does the Chinese industrial segment pick up. Real estate, building construction, commercial real estate down, and will stay down for a long period. Government has announced some schemes today for easing pressure on real estate. My take is it's not enough because demand was already low. But my sense is this, if you dig in, there might be an opportunity to disrupt here. Trading services companies will recover faster than manufacturing companies or highly leveraged companies. So if your customer is highly leveraged, change your customer. If you're working with manufacturing companies, figure out, can you shift your business to trading and servicing companies? Your customer's industry segment is your segment. This is the most critical shift in your strategic outlook. Your customer's industry segment is your segment. Okay, in order to adapt to the situation, where should strategic focus be? As far as finance is concerned, cash and not profits. Customer, just think retention, reactivation, and discovery. How will I retain? How will I reactivate somebody who's walked away from me? And how will I discover new? Because if you're going to be doing something different from what you're doing, discovery will become critical for you. Or if you decide to do something for your existing customers, something different, then retention, reactivation, conviction, giving them the conviction of using you is going to be the critical part. Operations focus on efficiency. How will you drive internal efficiency? And there, automation, digitization is the only solution. If you're still working with a Tally for accounts and nothing else, shift to Zoho now. If you don't have customer interaction digitized, go to CRM, start using CRMs and customer interaction tools and software so that you can drive operations efficiency. with US CFOs. And here's what came out. The topmost worry they have is financial impact, including on operations, future periods, liquidity, and capital resources. This is what your customers are thinking. Potential global recession. We have some slides on this which will help you figure out how the global recession is going to affect India. The effects on our workforce, reduction in productivity, because largely for 2 or 3 reasons. Reason number one is that workforce, if it is contract workforce, it will come back very, very slowly. If it's a workforce which is not living in the same town or city as your office, they would probably have gone home, and coming back is going to be challenging. Your workforce may need retraining, and there is so much free training available today. You have to have a retraining plan in place, depending on your long-term plan, and you have to actively drive it. Decrease in consumer confidence, reducing consumption. So we have some surveys here available from McKinsey again, which will give you some barometer on this. What is going to happen? Supply chain disruptions. This has been a problem, but I think world over the opinion is that this is going to go away in 3 months' time. Supply chain disruptions should disappear unless something happens to surprise us. This should get sorted out. But it's also an opportunity for you. Can you create a supply chain logistics company? Not having enough information. I want to go back to this point. My own observation is that city-based logistics companies do not want to reach out to the rural areas because for them, cost of collection is very high. Because farms are dispersed, they don't know where the need is. But I have found that in most rural areas, there are trucks, small trucks, trolleys, vans, loaders that are used only maybe 15 to 20% of the time. Can you aggregate such transport vehicles in rural area and create a logistics company? Here is something you can disrupt, and it's a fantastic opportunity. And actually in this opportunity, if you start thinking co-ownership, I think it will work very well. The other worry that came out was not having enough information to make good decisions, and that happens in any pandemic. But that's why only 20% thought that this was an issue. Difficulties with funding, 15%. I think beyond this is really far too small an impact. So core is this. This is what your customers will be worrying about. So please start talking to your customers and understanding from them, how do they see these issues? Your questions should come from here. And if you understand that, you will understand how to reorient and realign your business. Okay, then this is a survey done by McKinsey and Company about consumer optimism, which actually is tracking stages of COVID progression. And here is what they found, that in India, 52% people felt that the economy will come back within 2 to 3 months. 36% felt maybe it'll take 6 to 12 months. And 12% felt that it will be a long-lasting impact. So consumers seem to be positive about the bounce back. So unless something surprising happens and the virus again kind of takes off, there is a second or a third wave. Is there a question? Okay. Unless a second or third wave of virus happens, consumer confidence seems to be high.
Ravi sir, Vinayak is asking that difficulties in funding, please elaborate. The previous slide.
Okay. Yeah. So, and Vinayak, this is not about you, this is about your customers. I hope you understand that. Okay. So, so most lenders are going to be conservative about, Vinayak, can you hold that question? There's a slide coming up where I go deeper into strategies and I'll pick it up there. So just hold
Meanwhile,
that thought.
Sir Vishwanath has a question that will economy move into depression or only mild recession?
I think it will largely depend on whether the COVID infections start dropping. For example, today I read in the paper that the rate of new infections has already dropped by half. Earlier it was doubling every 3 days. Now it's doubling every 6 days. That's a positive sign. So my sense is that so as far as economy is concerned, you should look at two factors. One is the growth rate. Second is the normalcy of supply chain. So my sense is the supply chains will be restored in about 2 to 3 months' time, is my sense, except where the dependence is on Chinese imports. And but as far as growth rates are concerned, my sense and whatever reviews I've read from World Bank, I think it's going to take 12 to 18 months to get back to the current growth rate. So our growth targets will shift at least by 1 year to 1.5 years. Almost all research is pointing to 2021 as normalcy year. Sorry, 2022 as a normalcy year and not 2021. So later part of 2021 to early parts of 2022 is what people are, most research organizations are pointing to that. Which is why the ideal estimate for runway that is coming out is 12 months. People expect things to be normal in the second half of 2021. Moving on. So consumer confidence seems to favor early bounce back. Unless something drastic happens in the infection rate, I would go with this, that we should see normalcy in supply chain in about 2 to 3 months. Growth rates will take 12 to 18 months to get back to normal. Though if your customer is dependent on Chinese imports, here is how expected stock out for companies in EUS with suppliers in China by industries looking like, and I think it applies to India also. Automotive companies in China, a lot of parts are getting imported from China for SUVs and the latest vehicles. And expected stocks will last till about May, and they're expecting shortage post-May. So if you're working for automotive sector, you have a challenge. Pharmaceutical seems to have the longest stock. It's expected to last anything from October to November to December. But this is a long enough time for them to pick up. Consumer products, again, seems to be, will last only till May. Retail products will last till May. Retail fashion till about June. High tech, again, only May. So a lot of smartphone shipments from China are going to suffer. So is there an opportunity for you if you want to quickly get into assembling of smartphones or selling refurbished smartphones? Maybe it's an opportunity, because smartphone supply is going to get affected. Semiconductor supply will get affected. So it all depends on when these industries, it really depends very strongly on how will the Chinese economy pick up. If the Chinese industry starts picking up, these issues will start disappearing. But if it doesn't pick up, there's going to be a challenge. Somewhere in the next slide on this, expected impact on Indian industries if Chinese exports slow down by 2%. The expected impact is about $350 million. And most affected will be chemicals, textiles, and apparels, followed by automotive, and then followed by metals and metal products and machineries. So please look back at who is your customer. If your customer is a chemicals company, he is going to be affected, or an automotive company, or a textile or an apparel company. If you import textiles and apparels from China and sell, you're going to be running into trouble. So you will have to plan for a longer recovery period, or you'll have to substitute Chinese supply with something else. How that affects your price point and your distribution network, you have to figure it out. Also, shipping is down. Unless Chinese industry picks up, shipping is going to be down. So there is going to be shortage of container movement, and there is going to be the shipping prices might rise. So your cost of transportation is going to go up. So it doesn't matter whether you understand global exports or imports, but start looking at global trade because it affects your customer. So start mapping back, how is your customer impacted by the global trade? Is he dependent on Chinese exports? How will his business be affected? Start looking at that because that affects you. McKinsey has done some very interesting research on supply chain actions that companies need to take. And really, this is how they see it. And this is something I completely agree with, that any plant actually should see these things in front. So there's a distribution center in front, typically, stockists and forwarding and holding agents, dealer distribution network, consumer. This is the front end. Back end is tier 1 supplier, tier 2 supplier, could also be tier 3 supplier, as we saw in the earlier slide. Now, your challenge is that you could be a service provider for any one of them. How do you understand what is happening in the supply chain? So you will have to start talking to your customer and finding out. If you're in B2C, start talking to your connects and contacts, and how do they anticipate the consumer behavior changing? Engage with your customer and ask him about his perspective on supply chain, both upstream and downstream.
Sir, we have a couple of questions here.
Sure.
Let me start with the downs. Vivek is asking, sir, do you think imports from China will be starting immediately?
I don't think so. I think it's going to be affected because China has not been very transparent. And for China to actually, like for example, this quarter they have had their GDP has dropped by 5.6%. And that's a huge first for China. So the only way Chinese economy can recover is if their internal growth starts happening and their industry starts recovering. We do know that shipping is going to be a challenge. And we do know that if China starts focusing purely on exports, their internal economy is going to go into a depression. So, so my sense is that keep a tight watch on Chinese economy, and if you don't see it recovering in 2 to 3 months, the internal economy numbers of China should start growing. And if they are not growing, that's a dangerous indicator. That's a risk.
Another Vivek has questioned that isn't it good for Indian chemical company to grow up at this time?
So here's the challenge. Now, all of you have heard of this hydrochloroquine becoming a big demand for from the globe, from India, right? How many of you know that all companies that are manufacturing this drug import the basic ingredients from China? So we are going to run out of that inventory if we don't get supplies back, or if we don't start manufacturing the basic ingredients here. Same is true for chemicals. There are some chemicals where we have done substitutions based on Chinese supply because of cost points. So that's a double whammy. You cannot, even if you try to now substitute it with local or some other supplier's product, it is actually going to, you'll have to really sit down and look at how is it going to affect your price point. Will your customer be able to work with the higher price point? My sense is for the next 12 months, price is going to be a very critical issue. Your upstream customers may not be able to afford that increase in price. So this would be the general trend, but it could vary from a specific situation in a specific situation. And Vivek, we will have to get into details of your specific situation to understand, how will your business be impacted.
So on the pricing and the cash front, Vishwanath has the same question, that should we conserve the cash, draw down all our credit facilities like overdraft facilities and leverage our balance for this 12 months runway, or just do cost cutting and layoff during this recession?
No, focus on cash. So just cutting. So Vishal, hold it for maybe another 5 minutes, and we'll get into a slide where, depending on how your customer's industry segment is behaving, what should be your strategic position? So we're getting to that slide.
So
So
the
hold your
last
thought till then, and if you still have a question, ask it then. Yeah.
The last question by Ramanath is saying that, is it right to say quality spending will increase, hence the focus should be on quality and meaningful supply of products and services is needed?
So Ramana, quality matters, but I think right now the focus is going to be on. So I'm going to make some assumptions here, Ramana, to answer your question. So let's assume you're in a B2B business. So I think quality is a non-negotiable aspect of whatever you're going to do with that customer. So from customer's perspective, it is going to be operations efficiency and whether your price point works for him in terms of what is happening upstream. So if his industry segment is actually picking up, he'll be happy to give you more price. But if his industry segment is not picking up, price will become an issue. So I think it's going to be very specific depending on your customer and your customer's industry segment.
Sure. So all is specific to your business. We will ask the question at the end. Somebody's asking about, people are asking about their business. How is the market there? We will take all your questions at the end if, let it go to the flow.
Yeah, the specific, very specific questions should be handled at the end.
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on. Ask him about how's he optimizing production and distribution capacity, how's he identifying and securing logistics capability, because you never know. He might say, I have not been able to, so for example, let us say he's into the business of supplying vegetables or grains and distributing that. And he may come back and tell you that, logistics is becoming an issue, I can't collect. Maybe that's an opportunity for you to set up a rural logistics company. And believe me, that's a huge opportunity. You can aggregate vehicles which are available in locally, and then create a logistics company. Also, talk to your customers about how is production and distribution capacity getting optimized upstream. How are companies managing cash and net working capital? Ask these questions. And most customers may not even have a clue, but maybe somebody has, and you'll start understanding. So if your customer tells you, I have heard from my customer that they're downsizing budgets and they want to conserve cash and they're looking at reducing price to stay competitive, you know what's going to happen to you. Okay, moving on. So here's a very interesting research from Harvard Business School, where they looked at whenever recessions have happened because of such pandemics, how have companies created their strategy and how have they performed compared to their peers who did not have a specific strategy. So, and the measure they used was any company who had a specific strategy and got 10% or more on both revenue and profit after recession, they took that company into consideration. And here is what they figured out. First of all, they looked at a set of companies which had a completely prevention-focused strategy. This is a defensive strategy. Company primarily makes only defensive moves. They will just do cost cutting, more concerned than their rivals. They hunker down, they avoid losses and minimize downside risks. So when a company creates a specific strategy and is prevention focused, 21% of such companies performed better than their peers. The next category they found was promotion-focused companies who went aggressive, just kept investing in offensive moves and actually looked for upside benefits, more upside benefits compared to their peers do. Best example is HP. When Carly Fiorina was leading it, she went completely offensive. I forget when she was there, but whenever she was there, and there was a recession, I think it was 2008. I don't remember the year. She went completely offensive, and that actually put HP in a very bad position. They have taken ages to recover, and they have lost initiatives in various areas because of that decision. Bad move, because the company was not ready for this strategy. The research found that 26% of companies who went for promotion-focused strategies did better than their peers. And better means doing 10% more or more on both revenue and profit. Pragmatic companies which combine defensive and offensive moves, which is combination of prevention and promotion. 29% such companies did better. And progressive companies who did not completely shut down or become defensive, but they were optimally combined and constantly looked at optimizing both defense and offense as they went along, rather than get stuck with a plan. 37% such companies did better than their peers. And these are fantastic numbers. So depending on your industry segment, you will have to, and your customers customer industry segment, you will have to consciously choose one of these strategic approaches. B2C, be driven by your consumers' behavior. B2B, learn from your customer and customers' strategic position. Now let's go deeper in each of these strategies. So here I have a grid where I show you prevention focused, pragmatic focus, progressive focus, and promotion focus. And then there are 4 areas which we'll examine, starting with financial impact. So what we look at, the cash flow stability, if in your specific strategy, if what is the level of debt restructuring possible or leveraging your future business possible? Next, we look at how is the customer going to behave in your industry, and I include your customer's customer also here. Affected by recession, how is the customer interaction channel and behavior going to change? Is he going to go completely online? Will he stay offline? Will he prefer people to visit him? You'll have to ask these questions. How easily can you reacquire old customers or generate new clients? The third area we look at is operations efficiency, and we look at how deeply is technology deployed by you or your customer. What about systems, process, and mechanization? If you are manufacturing, mechanization becomes critical. How are you leveraging automation and digitization in your operations? Infrastructure. What is your people capability? What is your people availability? And how modern is your plant, your machine infrastructure? So we look at these factors and then take a call. Depending on what we see happening for you, we'll decide which of these strategies works for you. And what strategic initiatives should you take based on that? So, is there a question? Okay, so you have to be prevention focused if you see the cash flow stability is going to be very slow. If you think that it's going to take long term for cash movement recovery to happen in your supply chain, if you see very low possibility of debt restructuring or leveraging your future business, customer behavior, if you think your customer is going to be severely impacted or customer is going to be severely impacted, and you find that the customer and customers interaction channels and behavior is becoming more online than offline, and your customer is not ready, you are not ready, you find that reacquiring old customers or generating new clients is going to be very low, very slow. You find that technology usage by your customer is very low. You find that, you find that systems, process, mechanization usage with you or your customer or customer's customer is very low. You find very low digitization or automation. This stops mattering, because this itself means you better cut down everything down to your core. Start reducing without sorry to use that term, with some degree of ruthlessness. You can't be emotional. Shut down or dispose of what is not core. Now, if funding is possible, then pivot or do something new. If funding is not possible, consider shutting down and starting an absolutely new business. Because this is putting bad money, good money after bad money. And if you see this happening to your customer or your customer's customer, you may be in a good position, but you better change your customer segment. So again, it becomes prevention focused because it will take you a lot of effort to do this. When should you have a pragmatic focus? You find that the cash flow recovery will happen within 9 months. You find that cash movement in the supply chain will recover within 6 months, midterm. You find debt structuring is possible. You can go back to your banks, your lending organizations and restructure debt. Postpone installments, reduce interest, postpone interest payments, do whatever you can. You find that the customer behavior is affected by recession. It's high, it's not severe, but it is high. You find that he has changed how he interacts with you or your customer or your customer's customer. You find that reacquiring customers is possible and new customers is possible. Medium usage of technology, your customer or you or your customer's customer has deployed systems and processes. Why is this important? Because companies who have deployed systems and processes and mechanization will be able to drive operations efficiency and therefore cut their costs and scale up more quickly. Automation and digitization is going to become the way to go as you go forward. So this is going to be critical, and if it is medium, then you have a chance for a pragmatic focus. People capability, you will have to develop through retraining. It should be possible. Availability, medium. Okay, it's not going to be a severe crisis for you, but there's a medium level availability. You have a modern plant and machine, medium level will also be fine. So what you do is cut down everything down to your core. Make prudent investments in innovation, new products, R&D, and marketing. So figure out based on basis of your cash flow what you can or cannot do. But do plan to invest in this. Don't just get into prevention-focused strategy. Because prevention-focused, it'll take you a long time getting back to normal. Therefore, there has to be some degree of aggression on innovation, new products, R&D, and marketing. And if funding is possible, then get more aggressive on R&D. If your next level, if your cash flow is going to be stable within next 6 months, you have money for 6 months and after that you don't have to worry. The supply chain cash availability is going to recover within 3 to 6 months. Both debt restructuring is possible as well as you can leverage your future billing. Your customer has medium effect because of the change, whatever has happened. So for example, in case of groceries, the customer is not going to cut down budgets. And the interaction you'll find would change in most places. People will go more online. People will be hesitant to go for face-to-face meetings. So for example, in household needs, you'll be surprised to know that Amazon has gone and added 12,000 delivery boys in the last 4 weeks because they expect the demand to really shoot up. Reacquiring old customers, probability is high. Generating customers, high. You are doing high degree of usage as far as technology is concerned. Systems, process, mechanization, your customer, your customer's customer, the usage is high. Automation may not be high right now, but you will have to invest in this. And you should have the cash flow and you will have to invest in it. People capability medium, but retaining possible. Availability is medium to high. Plant and machine modernization, it's medium. So again, cut down to your core without compromising on R&D and innovation. So here's the difference. In pragmatic, you're cutting down everything down to your core. But here you will not cut down everything, and you will keep a focus on R&D and innovation. So your hierarchy of costs will help you figure out what to cut and what not to cut. Investing in automation and digitization will become critical for this because you will be a little more aggressive in acquiring new customers and launching new products. When do you become promotion focused, that you go aggressive and try to gain more customers, that your cash flow stability will restore in 3 months. Your supply chain that your customer and you reside in will be normalized in 3 months. You have a high probability of getting your debt restructured or leveraging your future billing. So for example, asking customers for paying advance, you're leveraging your future. Impact on customer is short term. It's going to happen in household goods. Interaction channel and behavior changes is low. Your client is still wanting to meet personally. So that means investment in digitization and automation might be low because it takes time to change there. Reacquiring probability very high. Technology very high degree of usage because that will be necessary for you to drive operations efficiency, which you will need if you start accelerating customer acquisition. Very high degree of systems and process and mechanization. Automation and digitization could be minimum because there is a low degree of change in interaction. People capability has to be high, availability has to be high, and your plant and machinery must be modern. So you can selectively cut down non-essential without compromising on R&D, innovation, and expansion plans. So between this and this, your expansion between progressive and promotion-based, your expansion plans become more aggressive. You will have an aggressive acquisition of new customers and launching products in demand. So evaluate your finance, customer, operations, and infrastructure in the emerging situation. And now we can take the questions that we had held back regarding, how should you grow, where should you grow? I think Ramanna had a question which we had put. Ramanna or Vishal?
Right now, sir, Mr. Nathan has a question that will economic recovery be U-shaped or V-shaped, specifically for MSME sector? Where there is a pricing pressure because of increased or extended credit periods from 30 days to 90 or 120 days? How to price correctly in this recessionary period? Please clarify.
Okay, so I don't think there's anybody in the world today, and that's my opinion, that who can tell you that whether it will be U-shaped or V-shaped and how it will be recovering. I think those are just wild guesses. So my advice would be is, can you figure out a strategy that does not depend on whether it is U-shaped or V-shaped? And if you look at this grid, at no point in time does it depend at none of these pieces, none of the advice we are giving you depends on the nature of recovery. It completely depends on customer behavior. Focus on your customer, what is changing in his life, and how do you align with that? And we also work with SME sector. I personally coach companies in the range of about 20 crores to about 300 crores. And everywhere we are telling them, go back and talk to your customers, be transparent. And interesting part is most large customers have agreed to pay advance. The example of a company which makes material for shoe uppers, a 35 crore company, supplies material to some of the largest polyurethane and PVC shoe manufacturers. And every large customer has agreed to pay advance because they understand. And please remember, your customer is equally dependent on getting assured supplies. So what's going to happen, I think, is, excuse me. So I think the Indian industry has a very interesting structure. So you have SMEs, and then you have another layer under them, which is more of a small businesses, which actually are not very are not part of your regular economy, which are going to shut down. A large number of them are going to shut down. And as a consequence, demand for uh, material and product from structured SME organizations who are working totally in white and who have better resources for making material available, their business is going to grow and the customers are going to pay advance. That is our experience. Almost, we work with a filters company which is about, I think, 45 crores, industrial filters company. We work with the shoe material company. We work with a shoe manufacturer who does about 300 crores in business. And everywhere wherever we have recommended ask for advance, it has worked. And we have asked them to be very transparent with their vendors and create a very clear payment plan that you will stick to. It has worked. A lot of NBFCs are actually stepping in to do supply chain financing. And those NBFCs are fine giving you 120-day credit in your supply chain at 18% interest. And they're dropping interest rates because RBI is cutting rates. So you will have to take a position, first of all, in your mind that in order for me to be successful in keeping my company surviving and thriving, this is the mental position I will take. I will work with my vendors and figure out a payment structure. I will talk to NBFCs and figure out supply chain financing. I will talk to my customers and see who's ready to give me advance, and I'll prioritize my shipments accordingly. This is possible to do. Our experiences that wherever this has been tried, people have been successful. Hope that answers your question. Any other question?
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear?
We have a question related to restaurant. Vinayak is saying, you said restaurants are going to be hit. Any data on cloud kitchens? AFAIK people have short memories. They will forget what happened and resort to eat out. Everything can stop, but eating cannot. What is your view on this?
So I think cloud kitchens will become more and more successful. I think there are concerns around home deliveries, which happened because of the pizza delivery, but I think people have short memory and that will disappear. And as we get more control over or how this virus is spreading, and once the herd behavior, which is, we develop herd immunity starts happening, I think people's worry about home delivery is going to go. But social distancing, I think, is a reality. Therefore, home deliveries are going to go up. Online behavior is going to go up. And so cloud kitchen will go up. So if you aggregate restaurants and actually start giving them cloud kitchen services, I think that's a potential opportunity. But will people visit restaurants more often? I think it's going to take time. And what I'm hearing everywhere is 12 to 18 months. People don't expect, most people who are in this business of consulting, whether it is Deloitte, whether it is McKinsey, whether it is any one of these leading consulting companies, and world over, the inputs that are coming is that restaurant business is going to take time to recover.
Hello.
What about the logistic? Pradeep is asking that I'm in logistic of e-commerce companies like Naptol, and now is the right time to expand the business.
Oh, absolutely. But please keep an eye on cash management. Don't take the eye off cash. For this year, at least for next 6 to 9 months, forget about profit. Just keep an eye on cash. And if you can actually figure out and see, because you're in logistics, there is going to be a large number of vehicles available that you can leverage. So figure out an an asset-free model of logistics where you can actually leverage vehicles already available, because cash is going to be tight. But yes, logistics will grow and focus on that.
So I already have a fleet of some vehicles over there with me, and that too electric vehicles. So is it beneficial for me to connect with some NBFC and grow more?
I think more than NBFC, you could figure out going back to some investor, and if you need investment in increasing your fleet, go back to an investor. But if you need operations money for operating, then go back to an NBFC and figure out a cash limit. For your information, SIDBI is giving, see, logistics will come under essential services. And SIDBI is giving 50 lakhs at 5% without any collateral to any SME that is actually in essential services business. So you should be able to reach out to SIDBI and raise money at a very low interest rate.
Okay. So one more thing I would like to ask you. Actually, I'm not earning more some cash flow or something, but I'm looking for more contracts, because already I have enough vehicles also, and delivery boy strength something around 72. So can you guide me where I would grab more contracts or more business?
My suggestion is reach out to logistics companies, reach out to e-commerce companies.
Okay.
Or reach out to larger logistics companies who are in this business of connecting farm to fork, or even moving intra-city goods, and talk to them. So I don't know how large you are, how many vehicles you have, but maybe another logistics company could be your customer.
Mr. Challu, continuing the question of investors, what will be the response from the VCs, angels, Ps, and the existing investors on the startup company already? And what about the new startups that are planning to approach the investors? So how is going to be their response in the difficult times?
So right now they have become very cautious. I mean, there is a lot of input out there where they have now kind of gone into a shell, and investments have gone down. We don't hear too many new deals, and I don't think that the scenario is going to change for another two or 3 months. And by that time, we will start getting an idea as to what is picking up, what is not picking up, where are the disruptions happening, where are the opportunities, and that's when the investment will pick up. And my sense is that we might see a flurry of investments, maybe 3 months. I'm assuming that it opens up in May. We might see a flurry of investments happening by September to December, because these guys also have to put the cash somewhere. There is so much cash in the world today.
So we have so many specific questions related with their business. Is this the right time to open the question answer floor, or do you have something more?
No, hold it for another 10-15.
It is better to open the right questions and answer.
One second. I'm checking with Ravi sir. Do you have more to share, Ravi sir, or should I open the question answer?
I would suggest, yes, wait another 10 minutes and then we can do that.
Sure, please hold for 10 minutes. We will answer all the questions. Yeah.
Fine.
Okay, moving on. So how will consumer behavior impact your industry segment again becomes very critical. And what you have to really ask yourself is, are you going to be able to create and maintain a customer and to deliver a product or service that costs us less to deliver than the customer is willing to buy? Now, this may sound to you like Gyan, but believe me, this is what you must apply very, very ruthlessly and mercilessly. Because in a recessionary market, quality and price are going to be the key drivers. And so figure out, can you create and maintain customers and deliver product and service that costs less to deliver? Then the customer is willing to buy. Then you will get customers. And finding, creating, and maintaining customers is critical to your business. Now, getting back to what we tell you in the startup coaching that we do, is that your customer profiling is going to be something like this. Initially, you will find innovators, then early adopters, then early majority, then late majority, then laggards, right? The thing is that the early majority and late majority are going to become, will have a prevention focused approach. So the market, if you are already in this space, the market is actually going to become tougher for you. However, if you're still in your initial stages, the market might become may not become so tough for you, because innovators will still actually want, let's go a little further. This is how your sales is going to grow. And innovators are looking for novelty. Early adopters are looking for competitive advantage. And this is going to become critical for these guys to be able to succeed in the emerging situation. So if you are still at this stage in your startup, you're in a good position. But if you're already matured, you've crossed your business model discovery, you're actually now executing on your go-to-market strategy, you will have to really deep dive into your customer and your customers' industry segment, and how their behavior is going to change and how it is going to affect your business. So this is where your first, if you're just starting up, this is your first 100 customers, where they come from. So moving on, I'm going to quickly go through this. How do you actually, what are the various chasms that you will have to cross? So depending on where your startup is, are you still at the idea to opportunity stage? Have you moved on to the next stage? I mean, and you're creating a vision, or you are already moved to next stage where you're building a full product and you hired a team, or you have discovered your business model and you're building a solution, and you have got funded, you've discovered your business model, you've hired an executive team, and you're now trying to grow into a company. Really, these are 5 chasms that you will face at each stage. First stage is customer development. Now, customer development maps back to innovators and the early adopters. So you may still have a possibility of creating a pragmatic strategy and not a prevention focused strategy, because they will still be interested in your product unless you're doing something that is completely non-essential for them. Then you have a challenge. So you'll have to ask those questions. You could be at the product go-to-market fit stage. So your customer development has happened. You've got early adopters and innovators on your platform. You're now going to try and discover your next set of customers. Now move to a pragmatic strategy here, because you do not know how the majority market or the conservative market is going to behave. Are you into essential services? Then you are in a good place. But if you're into something that is aspirational, your customer is discounting it already in his mind, slow down, be careful, go very, very cautious on preserving cash. So you'll have to do a lot of thinking here between pragmatic and prevention. If you cross that stage and you're into business model stage, again, depending on which of those, how that market segment, that industry segment behaves for you, you will have to go cautious. It cannot be completely prevention based unless every indicator is telling you prevention based. Then you have to figure out, okay, whatever you're doing, how do you go completely prevention based there, and what else should you do in your company so that revenue starts coming to your company, keeps coming to your company. So realigning businesses, working with your competition to realign different parts of your business, giving away something, taking something else, partnering with people, start bringing out those kind of thinking so that your revenue does not stop completely. If you're already at this stage, go-to-market stage, again, it'll depend. You'll really have to deep dive into your customer's industry segment and your customer's industry segment and end consumer behavior to figure out what should be your strategic approach. Should it be prevention? Should it be pragmatic? Should it be progressive? Or should it be aggressive? You'll have to figure that out based on the grid we showed you. And finally, growth. I think this, again, it will depend on where you are, which segment is your customer in. So you'll have to be careful. Each of these stages, depending on your business, depending on your customer's industry segment, depending on your customer's industry segment, you will have to start figuring out your strategy. So the question is, whichever industry you're in, whichever segment you're in, whatever is happening to your business, can technology and innovation become a key differentiator? And I think for all startups, this is a fundamental question you'll have to answer. And in the last workshop, we showed you that businesses that have leveraged technology, systems, process, mechanization, automation, and or digitization in the past such pandemics continue to survive and thrive. And businesses that did not adopt and adapt may face slowdown and shutdown. So here's what we saw last time, that when we looked at the real GDP per capita for the world, for first 800 years since 1000 CE, it just multiplied 3 times. But despite 8 pandemics and financial black swans happening in the last 20 years, it just skyrocketed, grew 33 times. And the reason for that was the 3 industrial revolutions. The first industrial revolution happened from, this is when it happened. The second industrial revolution happened here. The third industrial revolution started in 1931 and kept happening. And it's still happening. And companies that started then were all startups that created disruptive innovations in true sense. So the question you have to ask yourself is, whatever scenario you see, whatever you see is broken, can you leverage technology and innovation to change things radically? Can you innovate in the business model or in the business process that can change things radically? That thought process has to start for you guys. And as far as customers changing behavior is concerned, you will have to start looking at the 4th industrial revolution, Industry 4.0. The three key things that are going to happen. The digital business models and customer access is going the whole value chain, that the McKinsey slide we showed you, tier 1, tier 2 supplier and upstream supply chains. Can you create leverage existing product services to disrupt supply chains? Can you do something different? Great opportunity. The third opportunity is, can you help your customers digitize their products and services in a disruptive way? And there are a lot of opportunities in all these 3 areas. So what has happened is going to create immense amount of potential for this. So driving operations efficiency through digitization is going to be a big play. And this is an opportunity. Integrating customer interaction systems is a huge opportunity. There's a lot of open source software available today here in this space. So for example, you can create your own CRM using open source. I mean, you look at something like HubSpot, you look at something like Zoho CRM. It is amazing how many SMEs are today switching to this. I also am a part of an organization called Unnati, where I work with SME, and Unnati has coached close to 20,000 SME entrepreneurs. And every day, and we have taken this message to all the SMEs, and every day we find 5 to 6 SMEs who had never gone beyond Tally, switching to Zoho. This is going to be a big move forward. Connected supply chain, where your suppliers are connected, your logistics companies are connected, your customers are connected, your delivery chains are connected, is going to be a big play. So I think this is where we can stop and address some questions, and I want to kind of go back to the slide for that. So we can ask specific questions, and please identify what stage you are at so that I can give you a more meaningful answer.
Hi, I'm Himanshu.
Yeah, Himanshu, go ahead.
Hi, we would be at a stage of the market basically. we were to start we were to launch basically our POC and so on and so forth. We are into the digital platform business, basically.
You are here. You're in the customer development stage. This is
Yes, the market, yes.
This is where you are because you
No,
still have.
we've already developed the product. We've already understood the solutions, what kind of challenges exist in the ecosystem, right? So, and this was a solution, a tech platform, customized towards MSME as a industry per se, if I may call it, right? MSMEs per se.
Understood, Himanshu. So my question to you is, have you got? So let me kind of go back even one slide further.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you? Have you found your initial customers who actually would not mind trying something new? Do you
Yes,
have any customers?
we had to delay the launch basically because we wanted to do a soft launch sort of a thing towards the end of March, and hence we could not. But right now we have floated it internally with some 30-40. But I think once this slightly improves, we would have around 100-150 odd businesses coming on, smaller businesses coming on board to try out the platform. So that understanding is already there with them.
Okay, so you have spoken. So you have spoken in this space. You've spoken to customers who have signed up and said they will join.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so let's move on. But they still haven't experienced the product and given you any inputs.
Some of them have, which is like say 8 or 10 of them have already. But I think obviously they were also going through a lot of shocker and trying to see as to how things. So we've also slowed down in terms of our reach out to them. But my question was pertinent to this, that let's say as and when, let's say, getting 100-150 odd customers, especially the MSMEs, to come on the platform and POC should not be a problem, right? My question to you is, at this stage, considering as you said, that investors and all investors would be basically slow in terms of investing, or rather cautious in terms of investing at this stage. My question was that, so that means the bargaining power, if they invest at this stage for an investor, would be much more higher, right? So should we, let's say, defer or delay our fundraising attempts also at this stage by, let's say, a quarter or two?
Okay, so Himanshu, let's view it from a different perspective. So investors, first of all, your objective and investors' objective are not aligned. I hope you understand that. His objective is to see, you could have kind of created a marijuana farm if it was legal in India and shown the investor, hey, you know what, marijuana is going to sell like hotcakes, and he sees that opportunity and he'll invest in marijuana.
Sure.
Right? So he doesn't care what he's investing in as long as he sees that you can, in your business, show humongous future profits. This is very important. I'm going to repeat it. Humongous future profits.
Sure.
Every startup which is funded and which is a unicorn continues to show opportunities for future humongous profits while they have been making zillions of dollars of losses.
Sure.
That possibility of your generating future humongous profits attracts money to drive valuation.
Sure.
Then there is another class of investors who are not the VCs, who look for single organizations. They are equity participants, but they really look for something that you can build as a company. So in both cases, unless you can show numbers, growth traction numbers, likelihood of attracting money is not going to be very high.
Okay.
So since you are still at POC and you have 140 potential signups, I would see 2 stages of investment. Get these 140 online once they are open. Take 3 to 6 months to stabilize them. Get great referrals from them. That's when you should really approach the serious investment, because then you can tell that investor, hey, listen, I had 140 people and they've given me 300 referrals, and next 6 months I'll have 300 customers on this, and this is my growth and traction. Then the cash cash register bells start ringing in his ears and he sees money coming, future money coming in. But if you try to approach any investor, irrespective of time period, where you still have not demonstrated growth and traction, money is going to be slow in coming. Two things are going to happen. Two contradictory things are going to happen in investment world today. There's going to be a lot of reluctance in terms of investing in companies because they don't know how the markets are going to behave. And on the other hand, there's a lot of cash waiting to get invested. Because people who have cash want multiple.
Right.
So it's going to be a very fluid situation. And if people see great opportunities with growth traction, money will come.
Sure.
Hope that answers your question.
Yes, basically, yes. So because right now where we were looking to raise funds was on the contrary, as you said, right, customer acquisition and the how can you acquire customers. Our right now concern is we see a lot of traction coming in next 1 quarter if I open it up, right? So what we are looking at is maybe a 5,000 base of customers. So then my costs, which is my team, infrastructure, IT, and so on and so forth, just multiplies from there on.
So I would suggest, Himanshu, a different pricing strategy might solve your cash flow problems. I mean, it's basically and also, so I think the key problem for you is going to be scaling up operations.
Correct. Absolutely. And managing the costs accordingly. Yeah.
Correct. So which is an operations thing. It's not a development investment. It's more an operations thing. How do you create customer support? How do you create the cloud infrastructure? How will you scale up servers? How will you pay for them? All those things are going to come in.
Right.
And how will you continue to change, incorporate changes customers will be asking for? So that those things are going to happen to you. And a lot of operations planning will be required. And I mean, Himanshu, we do this day in, day out for SMEs and for startups. So devil is in the details. And my advice to you is sit down and really make a very robust operations plan and start figuring out costs and make your cash flow planning. And then a pricing strategy can be developed where, in fact, it's the customer who actually funds your growth. So that can be figured out.
Because our model basically was that generally what happens is if you're looking at a subscription model, right? So getting customers to pay upfront becomes slightly challenging. So till now our business model was, or our go-to-market was, okay, let's say we'll do it for 45 days. Once you come on my platform, you experience the platform. How is it beneficial if you're if you're an MSME and so on and so forth. And post 45 days, it's a subscription model basically from there on. So now I think with this Corona thing seeping in, is something we are right now working as to how can we tweak this? If yes, then how do we manage those costs and so on and so forth.
I understand. So just to kind of last comment on this, it's very difficult to get into your specific situation, but pricing strategy is not maths. I would strongly recommend you to keep 3 things in mind. Pricing strategy has 3 things in picture. That is, one is the functionality that you're offering. Second is the behavioral economics. And third is the psychology of marketing. All these 3 things will come together to decide the price. And that, believe me, is as much an art and science as science. So you'll have to spend time in that area to figure out, and how do you persuade people to actually customers to pay upfront when they initially were not ready to pay. A lot of stuff out there which you can follow.
Ravi sir, people are waiting for getting their chance, so they are requesting to have a small answers.
Next question.
Thank you so much.
This is Suresh here.
Before we move to the question answer session, I have 2 small announcements. One is that I have shared one Google form. Request all of you to please fill in. We will create a group, and so that next further communication will be easy. And we'll have Ravi sir also in the group, so you can take your questions there. The second thing is that we do specific to the businesses. We can take it offline. I will be sharing my phone number. You can call me, and we can connect with Ravi sir. So please ask those questions who can be beneficial for others as well. Over to you. The next, I guess, Suresh is there, unmuted.
Yeah. Okay. Suresh here. Good afternoon. I'm working as a mentor and advisor for the startup and startup founders, mainly focusing into their internal issues and resolving the problems. So how it is going to be worked out in?
Suresh, your last part of your question was not very audible to me. Can you repeat?
Mentoring. I'm mentoring and focusing on the issues the founders, startup founders facing, and I will try to solve their issues and problems. This is my area of work.
I understood. So Suresh, I think you will have to probably become very outward focused and start understanding, as we were mentioning, start looking at the complete industry segment and supply chain, not only at what your startup has, but your startup's customer and his customer's customer. Yes. Because all that is going to affect your startup, the one you're mentoring. So my advice to you is really spend time and understand industry segments, how they are behaving, what are the trends showing, so that you can help him figure out what to do internally. Second thing, I think, I don't know what your personal area of expertise is, but cash management, cost management, cash flow management are going to be critical areas. So you should definitely focus there.
Okay, fine.
Next.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Vishwanath. I'm a chartered accountant. I had a question for you in the group. How would the economic recovery be? Will it be U-shaped or V-shaped? I just want to understand, how do we advise our client in terms of managing their cash? Should we ask them to leverage their balance sheets, draw down all their debts, or should we tell them, boss, work on your reserves? Or what would be the advice that you would give to specifically to MSME and SME segments as such?
Got it. So I'm going to actually go to a previous slide. It's a little complicated slide, but this is very important. So Vishwanath, can I suggest just take a screenshot of this?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay. Because
the session was very good. I'm sorry for interrupting. The session was very good. It was very informative. Thanks for the session as such.
So my suggestion to you is start looking. So it's very difficult to say, is it going to be we? Is it going to be you? You'll have a lot of experts who are going to say it's you. Somebody's going to say it's we. Honestly, I don't know. And I don't even want to venture a guess. I don't have a crystal ball. I am not God. I doubt even whether God can tell you whether it's going to be you or you. So what you can do is understand how are the supply chains for your company that you're advising, his customer and his customer's customer going to behave. And then you use this grid to map it. And take a call, whether it will be prevention focused, pragmatic focused, progressive focused, or promotion focused, based on, and keep this grid is dynamic, keep assessing it every week. And accordingly create an advice. I mean, I'm actually using this grid very, very actively with all the SMEs I'm consulting with. And it is really helping us help them create, strategies and tactics that won't care whether it is we or whether it is you. So let's kind of differentiate. You is always going to be worse than we, right?
Yeah, you is worse than we.
But you can always create a strategy for you which can be scaled rapidly. So if it surprises you that it is not you, but it is we, you'll scale up.
Yeah.
But for that, you will have to figure out the operations efficiency piece and the infrastructure piece. Is your client, where does your client map on this?
Done.
Okay, hope that answers your question.
No, my question on leverage was not answered. Should we leverage our balance sheet or should we not leverage our balance sheets? Advise it to the client?
Sure. So look at his current position and look at this part. Where does he stand? Is debt restructuring and future leverage possible? So if future leverage is not possible, better go prevention focused. If debt restructuring alone is possible, but future leverage is not possible, your customers are not going to give you advances 3 months for next 3 months. They're not going to give you long-term orders. Then you start looking at restructuring and start monetizing what is not core. And look at your competitors. Look at what they're doing. Go talk to them. Pick up phone, talk to them. Ask them, what is not core for you. And maybe some competitor can use some non-core service that you have. And you can use some non-core service that he has and cooperate. It could be partnership, it could be trading, it could be exchange of assets, it could be anything. The other thing is that if you are advising manufacturing companies, a lot of SMEs ignore their production floor. This is the time what they should do is look at their old equipment and actually talk to vendors and see if vendors are ready to pick up old machinery, do some of the activities that are non-core for you, and pay you for the machinery in terms of installments. So there are a lot of strategies can be created, and it is very specific to specific startups. And for example, I was mentioning to you that we are working with this company which is into shoe uppers. There's about 35.
Yeah.
He has 4 stations. I mean, he has a molding station where they make blocks. Then he has a splitting station. Can somebody turn off the music? Yeah, thank you. Splitting station. Then he has a laminating station. He has a filming station. So we have advised him to put each of these production stations as separate factories and optimize each. Just that shift has got him additional 10% revenue.
That shift has cost 10% revenue. Great.
Additional 10% revenue.
Great.
Optimizing each of these stations separately instead of looking at production flow. So there's no one single answer. You will have to actually get deep into a customer's whole production process, level of operations maturity, the kind of team he has, and then work from there.
Any specific guidelines for say I'm a chartered accountant CA firm, a registered valuer. Any specific guidelines for CAs as such, or the industry as such, or how should we cope up with this COVID thing? If you can just answer that.
Can I mean, it's going to be a very long answer. Can I suggest that, there are other people waiting? Can I suggest we do take this offline and you can call us and we can help you?
Not an issue. Just a one-line answer we also do. Just a starting line, and then we'll take it offline.
Unfortunately, it is not a one-line answer. It is so specific to industries, internal preparedness. What is their current balance sheet health? A lot of factors will come in.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Lance.
You're welcome.
So, hello.
Yeah.
So this is Srinivas here. So actually, I take care of business development of data analytics platform, which is like a generic platform for different industry segments, BFSI, retail, or manufacturing. So we are in a mature stage, like we have 1,000 plus customers in the pipe, it's already existing customers from last 2 years. So now, like in the COVID situation, like which industry segments I should concentrate in next 2 quarters? I can prioritize.
So BFSI is expected to go down for some time. It will take probably 6 to 9 months to recover. So I don't see additional investments happening. I think the question you'll have to ask is how critical is your analytics piece for these BFSI? And can you realign that those analytics piece more with the ability to do customer analytics, do operations analytics? I mean, you'll have to start actually getting very specific into what is the problem that your customer is going to face and how can you reorient and realign your offering with these current issues. So that thought process will have to come in, which means you'll have to get into their industry segment and understand. Manufacturing, I mean, be very cautious of companies that are over leveraged. If you're working with big companies whose balance sheets are available publicly, start looking at their current over leverage, and because they may be cutting down on services. And I don't think there's a simple answer. You'll have to go by industry segment by industry segment. Even in manufacturing is a very wide term. So you'll have to go very specific into which industry segment manufacturing are you talking about?
Digital manufacturing.
Oh, you mean electronics?
No, in the manufacturing, like automotive industry, like the digital manufacturing, the smart manufacturing domain we are.
Okay, got it. So anybody who's going for, let's say, connected factory, automation and factory, yes. Your analytics comes in there.
Predictive maintenance. So you said in your slide, you are saying that automation and digitization. So where we play
I agree. I understand. I would shift my focus from BFSI to manufacturing in the short term.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, next.
Hi, Ravi, this is Riya. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ravi, hi, good morning. This is Ram here. I just wanted to understand how the co-working industry is going to fare in the short term as well as in the long term. Given that, like commercial industry, real estate is going to be slow, is it going to be an opportunity for co-working space, or is it going to be, some tough times ahead, given that, social distancing and things that are coming into play?
Ram, I think it's not something that can be predicted very easily. We are expecting the whole commercial space, whether it is co-working or regular commercial space, availability is going to go up, and availability is going to go up because people who had made commitments to picking up new commercial estate are going to back off. So a lot of commercial estate which would have normally gone on rent is going to become available. So prices are going to drop. So if regular commercial estate prices start dropping, it will certainly impact co-working also. So I think even there, some co-working, there is a possibility to disrupt in the co-working space also, provided you have enough cash to last about 6 to 12 months. So for example, we can help you create strategies if you can kind of walk away from regular payments for 6 to 12 months.
Okay.
Such a disruption is possible. But it'll need you to have cash to manage your next 6 to 12 months.
Okay, but see, the positive side I see is because work from home is working for most of the organizations, they may just look at continuing the option with minimal staff, working out of co-working space. Is that a possibility?
So here's the challenge. See, we know that cash is going to get tight, right? We also know that small companies are going to find a difficulty finding funds immediately.
Yeah.
We also know that social distancing is going to be an issue. Moving around is going to be an issue. We don't know what will be required after the lockdown is lifted.
Correct.
So all those three things will come together to determine how will utilization and pricing emerge in commercial real estate, including co-working space.
That's right. So my question was, okay, in the short term, maybe people will be still skeptical about moving to co-working space given the social distancing norms. But in the long term, after this dust settles down, after the pandemic is hopefully flattened completely, then is there a chance that people will go for it? Maybe 6 months down the line is my question.
Ram, honestly, I don't think I have enough data to answer that. I would want to wait for at least 2 or 3 months after it opens up and then take a call, because I really don't know how the commercial real estate picture will emerge.
Okay. Thanks, Ravi. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hello.
Yes.
Good morning, Ravi. This is Riyazur Rahman.
Hi, Riyaz.
So how is going to be this business that are into reselling, especially the IT hardware equipment?
So I think that's
margin already.
I know, but I think there's an opportunity there, and because investment in my sense is rental market is going to grow.
Okay.
Because people will be cutting down on investing into assets, and but your market is going to be probably small to medium sized companies.
Okay. So only the rental goes, not the resale part.
I think as far as resale is concerned, price points will become critical. So we don't know what your price points will be, but yes, both will probably be opportunities. Rental is clearly a no-brainer.
So in that case, who is the target market segment? Only SMEs?
Small to medium IT companies, small IT companies, medium-sized IT companies.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Jagdish, you had a couple of questions. You can unmute and ask.
Hello.
Yeah.
Jagdish, I can barely hear you.
This is Prabhu, I guess. Prabhu, you were speaking something. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Ravi, this is Prabhu here. I just want to give some gyan on the supply chain management for rural areas. You were talking about it previously.
Yeah.
Can you just be a little bit elaborate on the supply chain in
Okay.
rural areas? Yeah.
Sure. So, and I'll also give you a background where this is coming from. I have a small farm about 60 kilometers from here in near Denkanikotta in Tamil Nadu.
Denkanikotta, yeah. Thali and Denkanikotta, yeah.
Thali area, yeah.
Yeah.
And invariably, I've seen people throwing away tomatoes very often. Because what happens is, there is a herd mentality. People grow tomatoes when the market price crashes and the artis are not picking up tomatoes, and finally the farmer just throws tomatoes. And that happens largely because the cost of shipping tomatoes for an individual farmer is far more than the money he would get if he brought it to the city. And also his dependence on arti is huge. And the more interesting part is whenever I have had to move anything, whether it was my produce or whether I wanted to buy something to some stuff for the farm, I have invariably hired one-tonners and small carriers locally, which have been available at the drop of a hat. I have never had to wait. All I would tell my supervisor is, okay, let's get this. He would call somebody and a one-tonner or a three-tonner would be there within half an hour. And when I checked with my supervisor, what was the utilization, what's the availability, and the answer I got was tractors, trolleys, one-tonners, smaller carriers are readily available anytime you want. This is one part. Second part is a lot of farmers depend on arti because if you have, let's say, just 1 acre, 2 acre, or 3 acre farm, you are not producing enough to carry it yourself. And most logistics companies are city based. So if they have to go pick something up, they will have to move from the city to carry something there, to pick up something. So nobody's looking at this problem. So why not create a logistics company in the rural area itself, where you these trucks and one-tonners and smaller carriers, and bring the produce and to the city.
Yeah. Again, I have a follow-up question. See, anyhow, the cost of coming from a rural area to Bangalore and going back is going to be more than the one way.
So not if you aggregate, let us say, so I worked it out for one-tonners and three-tonners. If you aggregate to carry enough load, and honestly, you can tie up with companies like Ninja Carts and companies like those, and company like Meesho, because Meesho is actually e-commerce for tier 2, tier 3 towns. You could actually bring supplies from the rural area and give it to Ninja Cart and even Meesho for that matter, and carry stuff for Meesho back to tier 2, tier 3 towns.
Yeah. Yes.
So
okay,
it's a
thank you. Yeah, I think it's a good input from you. Thank you, Ravi.
You're welcome. Any other question?
Ravi sir, good afternoon. My name is Bhagat.
Sorry, who's that?
My name is Bhagat.
Yeah, Bhagat, tell me.
Yeah, I just want to, I'm actually in the ideation phase of one idea. I just want to check your inputs. So how is it going to be with online lending in terms of invoice financing or gold loan? Because people need money right now. How would it be?
So I'm not going to call it invoice financing. I'm going to call it supply chain financing. Basically, discounting invoices where. So look at a company called Pura. Pura is a company set up by one of the co-founders of IndiaMart, which is an order to dispatch software, and they're tied up with companies like Mintify. I would suggest you write it down, Mintify, Mintify is into supply chain finance. So what they do is anybody who's got a distribution network and dealers and distributors who ask for credit, Mintify underwrites that credit. And Mintify uses a modified version of FDLG, which is fixed deposit lending guarantee. So as a supplier, as a company who's manufacturing and distributing products, let us say you want 1 crore of supply chain finance by your distribution network. So Mintify will take 20 lakhs as a fixed deposit from you and then provide guys, if there's a question, can you hold it on and let me complete this? So Mintify would also do KYC and eKYC, soft KYC and hard eKYC of the dealer distributor, and based on the score, it would give a limit. So say like somebody would get 5 lakh, 10 lakh, 15 lakh, completely depends on the dealer. And dealer can ask for whatever credit cycle he wants, 30, 60, 90, 120 days. And so you as a manufacturer get your money immediately. And then Mintify gives you money against that invoice. And then it in turn collects, whenever the collection happens, it passes through Mintify and they adjust the amount. And your risk is in case a dealer delays, dealer pays the interest for delayed period. He pays the interest for the entire period and pays some penalty for the delayed period. And in case he goes bad, then Mintify will adjust that money against your 20 lakh FD that you've given them. And once, if the bad debts go beyond 20 lakhs, then Mintify takes care. It goes out of Mintify's pocket. And Mintify does all the legal proceedings, etc., with the dealer. So I think this is going to keep growing for the MSME sector. And it's a great place to be in.
Okay, sir. Sir, you said something. Is it Pura? Can you spell Pura? You're talking about the Indian market.
P-O-O-R-A. Okay.
Okay, sir. I mean, then it's a great place. I mean, because of the current situation, probably in the next 1 year, I think. I mean, SME finance, supply chain finance would grow, right?
Supply chain financing will grow.
Yeah. Thanks, sir. Thank you very much.
Hello, Mr. Ravi.
Yeah.
See, I have a follow-up question again. See, I've been in this startup thing for the last 5 years, attending a lot of seminars, meetings, webinars, name it, I'm there. But I have a very, very straightforward question. See, once you have a venture where you have an MVP to show the customer, and after that, it's very difficult to raise funds. Hello?
Okay, is there a question or a statement?
It's a question.
Oh, okay. So I think what you're saying is after MVP is established,
yeah,
and you have traction, you can show that you have customer base growing. Will it be difficult to raise funds? I think that's the question.
Yes, right. You're
so
right.
If you can, so really you're looking at angel investment at that stage, and if you can show traction that customers have signed up, your MVP is accepted, it is working. So angel investment should not be difficult. It'll really depend on how much money you're asking for, but raising 20 to 50 lakhs should not be a problem.
Okay, Ravi, thank you.
But having growth traction is very important.
Yeah, okay. Is it the right time to ask for angel in this COVID-19 scenario?
I would wait for another 2-3 months. Let it open up, let things settle down. Let's see how the supply chain is getting restored, how consumer behavior is showing up, and then go for it.
Very true, Ravi. Thank you very much, Ravi. Thank you. Yeah.
I guess we are done for all the questions, Ravi sir. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you everyone. If you have not filled, please fill up the form. And we do one-on-one coaching. You can, I have shared the number on the chat window. You can contact us for one-on-one coaching. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Anupam.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ravi sir.
So the meeting is over. I'm keeping this window open so that you can take out our number and the attendance link from the chat window. Thank you.
The link you shared in chat box or sent a mail? Hello? Hello?
Hello. Hello.
Ravi sir, we are done. You can leave the meeting.
Okay.
Where is the link? Link? Have you
I will
sent through mail
paste it
or?
again. I'm pasting it again on the chat window. Here it is a Google form link. Can you see that?
What should we follow? What time should the test happen? What should be the minimum requirement of the location where the test?
Can you get it?
Right?
But we need to copy and paste it, right?
And tomorrow you tell me you have to go and take a test in law.
Yes.
It's not clicking. It's not clicking.
It might not click on the chat window. Just copy.
Yeah, correct.
So that guy should know exactly what he needs to do from the time he lands in the car.
I think it is connecting again and again. Yeah, you can just copy from HTTPS.
Do we need to carry some rough sheets, paper sheets?
Oh, yeah. हाँ चलो आओ बेटा
थोड़ी देर पढ़ लो ना।